Today we're going to talk about sobriety during the holidays. We're going to ask each other a couple of questions to things we always wanted to know about each other, and then sort of a wrap up and a looking forward of the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. Sobriety during the holidays, it's tough, it's hard.
Yeah. I would say being sober last year through the holidays wasn't as hard because I was pregnant. And so it's like, well, obviously, I would hope that if you're, carrying a baby really early on and even later on, although people in Europe kind of do it differently, whatever, that you would stay sober through your pregnancy, right? That would make sense. But I would have to say that most recent Thanksgiving, being sober for the first time as like a normal person was, I would say it was actually pretty challenging. And it's interesting because I don't think I realized up until.
So just to clarify, we're talking about sober from alcohol and obviously
and drugs,
other things.
Yeah. I mean, we, full disclaimer, we live our life fully clean, like no CBD, no nothing. Like, it's a big deal if we take Tylenol in this house. We're like the essential oils or like, we take echinacea, kind of magnesium kind of family. So, but that was a journey for us to get to this point. We didn't used to always be that way, though.
Well, tell me why, why are you choosing that this year?
So this year, I think, without going too far backwards, I think I realized that in past holiday seasons, I never really felt like my cup got refilled from like the rest and the time off and like the warm family experiences, because most of the time I was like ridiculously hungover.
Nursing a hangover.
I was like nursing a hangover on Christmas from Christmas Eve, or nursing a hangover the day after Christmas from Christmas. Obviously New Year's, that's always the case. And
it's a lot of hangovers.
It is. Doesn't make you feel good, and you just feel icky, and like it's just it's just not a fun feeling. And I don't think I realized in how many past holidays I did accidentally or by default turned to alcohol as like the coping mechanism for, having anxiety at a family gathering and like not knowing what to talk about. So I'll just drink, or bonding over drinking. Like, oh yeah, let's have a whiskey. Okay. Like, well, let's have another one. Woo. And then you like just don't remember like what you talked about with your other family member. And it's weird. And so this year I decided that I wanted to commit to staying sober. And not surprisingly and surprisingly, obviously a flood of emotions came up for me over the Thanksgiving Day weekend that we had to work through. But now looking towards Christmas, I think I'm actually really excited, because there's so many other options. Like, you can make like apple cider, or, have like the Martinellis that we used to have like last year when I was pregnant, and just really be fully present to everything and just let the feeling of Christmas spirit like really just wash and pivot the focus on towards what a wonderful story that Christmas is, that, our Savior was born, and, and to have hope and peace and love and all of those things for the year ahead, and to not start the new year like peeling my eyelids open. I'm excited about that.
You're excited about it?
Yeah, I am. I don't think I was like on Thanksgiving, but I think my heart is growing because I'm realizing that it's okay to be sober and that you're not lame if being sober makes you a better person. How do you feel about being sober for a while now.
I think it's okay to be sober, and it's not lame. I would argue it's more counterculture than it is culture. Being sober is not necessarily like a thing. It's not just like an activity. It's not like I'm sober now, and it's an identity shift.
Yeah.
Where you say I'm not that. That's just not a part of who I am. It was super clear like this when it came with cigarettes. So like I smoked cigarettes from like the age of 16 to like I don't know, almost 20,
Yeah.
right? And got to like almost a pack a day at some point. And one day when I like coughed blood, when people would tell me that I smelled bad, and when food lost its taste and I couldn't exercise, and like all these things just stacked on top of each other, and then there's cigarette burns in the car, and you're like, why am I doing this? It's also $8 a pack, and it just I had this moment where I tried to quit and say, okay, I'll quit tomorrow, and then eventually you get to this point where you're like, I don't smoke anymore. And so it doesn't become a question of I'm going to quit tomorrow. It's like I'm going to quit today, and you throw everything away and then you stop because you say I'm not a smoker.
Right.
That was the identity shift that has to happen. And that identity shift is not easy when it comes to things like alcohol, where I started drinking before I had even started smoking, and I continued to drink for the next almost 2 decades.
Right.
Well, no, I'm not that old. Decade and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Less than a decade and a half.
I was like, unless you started drinking when you were 8.
Because when it's installed in your social habits,
Yeah.
when it's installed every time you're angry, anytime you need to go soothe an emotion, go grab a double scotch or a bottle of wine or a bottle and a half of wine, 2 bottles of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Those were there were nights like that.
Yeah, totally.
And when it's so ingrained in identity and the people see you and around you, I mean, it's harder to make that shift. So it does require a force that is, and to me, was greater than myself to do that.
Of course. Yeah, this is not a self-sponsored, oh, I just did this all on my own kind of an effort. This was a long, painful process for sure.
Very painful.
Yeah. I remember, so just to give everybody some context, Chris decided he didn't want to drink anymore. What was it? March 2019?
March 2019, correct.
Yeah. And I remember him telling me that, and me just sort of being like, okay, like proud, but also like not really affected, and not really having like a huge emotional reaction to it. And I don't know, to the questions, like you were probably looking for more from me at that time, in that moment when you decided not to, and you shared that with me, maybe.
Well, I guess if I had been looking for more from you, it would have been less important. But it didn't really have anything to do with you. And yes, you like the force of like, this is my wife. Like, what do I want my marriage to look like moving forward? It really was an identity shift where I had looked at a drink that was being served to me at a bar, and the waiter spilled a little bit on me, and I looked around, and it just was this moment where it's like, I just ordered this out of social habits, even though I don't actually want it right now.
Right.
This is no longer me. I don't want this. I just don't want this.
Yeah.
I don't want this anymore. I don't like what it does to me. I don't want to have to worry about how I'm getting home.
That's a big one.
And I gave it to someone, and that was it. That was it. It was just one moment of deliverance. And that's exactly how it happened. It wasn't some big, grand, like, I'm done with this. I'm making promises to you. I'm making promises to God. I'm saying, oh, just give me one more chance. That's not what it was. You didn't even ask me to stop drinking. It was just like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And I just stopped.
I actually think that sometimes when decisions are made like that, it's actually more powerful, because like when you have a heart change and you just decide, like, there is no undoing that kind of a decision, and I remember my 30th birthday was about 2 months later, and and we obviously like, we're a part of, I'll talk for me and both of us. So we're a part of a ministry called Celebrate Recovery. Started at a Saddleback church, and I started going in 2019 because I thought that I was perfect, and the only person who had any problems was my husband, and I was just going to go be the supportive wife. Oh boy, was I wrong. And June 2019, I got into my own step study and working through the steps, and realizing after a really pretty rough night after my 30th birthday party, that
your 30th birthday party was basically all those things they did in The Hangover Part 1, 2, and 3 pretty much happened that night.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was like this
epic.
I don't know what it was. Why was it such a thing? That was crazy. What a crazy night.
Because I wanted it to be. Like, I was like, it's 30. I think in my mind, I thought that it was like my last big hurrah, because not that like I fell off.
You're going to die when you turn 30? I don't understand.
I think I saw it as like, if I don't capture this moment, like I'm not going to have this moment again.
And so by capturing it just meant getting...
I don't know. I wore like the white dress. I had the hair, the makeup, the shoes, like the whole 9 yards.
There was a photo booth.
We had like dance floor.
Jello shots for people. Was that? I remember that happened.
I think that, yeah, there were shots. I'm not really a shot person. Well, I'm not anymore. I never really was, but I couldn't. Anyway, I definitely remember like lip syncing or singing Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody," and then like cutting my birthday cake. And anyway, it was kind of, I just remember like things kind of went downhill after we left the party and like went to like an after party situation. Things kind of went downhill. And I remember waking up on like a foam pad mattress in our friend's house in his loft.
How many of you have woken up on a foam pad mattress in an unfamiliar place? Unsure of what had just transpired, a feeling of guilt, maybe a little shame, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. And I just remember feeling like I didn't need this after party. Why? It was a great time. Everyone loved the food. Everyone was happy. Having had a couple drinks, danced, memories were made. End it there, and like wanting to go home, should just go home. But I think I felt peer pressure a little bit to keep the party going. And then additionally, because
your peers at the time, and this is just me making an observation, I'm not a judgment, your peers at the time did that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think I was having this conversation with a friend a week or two ago about drinking, she's also sober and been sober a little bit longer than I have. And it was really nice to connect on that level. Because, in AA, they say like 1 drink is too many and 10 is never enough, or 100 is never enough. I can't remember which one it is, but it was like, I was the person where like, it wasn't like I needed to drink to get through a day or something like that. And I could go like a night or two off without having a glass of wine if I wanted to. But I didn't, because I didn't have a problem. and it was okay. Or I told myself it was okay. But then when I would get in like public situations, like parties, events, big moments and things like that, when it came time for the bar to open, it was like I was literally, to be perfectly brutally honest, like it was like I was terrified that the bar would run out. Like, and I would find myself at like events standing in line and getting like a couple drinks at a time because the line was so long that I didn't have it in me.
They had no more.
Yeah, God forbid they ran out, or God forbid my buzz wore off from the first drink before I could get to my second. And I remember I joined you at the tail end of the CR Summit that summer. And I remember like they had this cross. Remember, they put the cross up front, and they basically had everyone come forward and take like a piece of paper and then write the thing that you like didn't want to get rid of, that you really ultimately felt deep down was like keeping you from your relationship with God, and like putting it on the cross. just to paint the visual. And I put my indecisiveness about drinking on it. And
it wasn't the drinking you put on there. It was like making a decision whether or not.
Yeah.
It was the decision.
It was the decision, really, ultimately. Like, oh, is he? Oh, he recovered pretty quick. Oh, that's good. All right, he's okay. Luke.
His auntie's doing pretty good over there.
Yeah, he did yeah, okay, he's good. So yeah,
What
it was
about
just.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It was just around the decision for sure. And, we talk about, when your pain is greater than your fear, then you'll change. And I feel like the pain of just coming to terms with how this thing has really clouded a lot of my life, that when I really start, and I haven't even like completed my inventory, but when I really start to like extrapolate like all of the times that I did this behavior and then the results of it and then the people that I've hurt from it, that's enough for me to go, okay, no, like there really is something here that I need to explore further. And so I guess I say like September 2019, I had made the conscious decision that I was going to start to like phase alcohol out, and I wasn't bringing it home anymore. And then and then we got pregnant, and it was like, okay, well, I'm pregnant now. I'm obviously not going to drink while I'm pregnant. And then I wasn't pregnant anymore. And I remember that sort of like first major conversation you and I had. We were at the beach, and I said to you, like, I don't know if I want to stop drinking fully.
So, just to clarify, that's once we had the child.
Yeah, after Luke was already here. Sorry, yeah. And I was breastfeeding and all those things, which I still am. But I would like you to, so around holiday time 2019, go back 1 year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2018 was messy.
2018, we're driving toward Arizona, and we made some questionable decisions together. I'm telling you this today, audience, not necessarily for you to be shocked, but just to paint the picture. Like, I did not have a healthy relationship to alcohol because we thought it was a good idea to stop at a gas station on the middle of the way from Orange County to Phoenix, Arizona, and buy
some White
a
Claws.
case of White Claws.
Yeah.
And drink the whole thing in the car on the way because we were bored.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't know why we thought that was.
I don't know how we didn't die that night. This wasn't like during the day. This was in the middle of the night too.
It was dark. It was dark.
It's dark, and that's, I guess, a big confession on my part. But then 2 years later, today, we're looking at a much different kind of holiday experience.
Yeah, much more PG, but I'm okay with it. I look back at my life, and I look back on a lot of the decisions that I made because I was like, I'm going to make these decisions. And they were choices that I made that I knew that, like, I guess, like, from the station that I was living at the time, like, it felt like that was the right thing, or that I was entitled to make those decisions. But it really just took me down a different path and moved me further away from, like, just like God's goodness. And it was like, we've talked about like the wide and narrow path and stuff, and it was a very wide path, and I wasn't mature enough to live that wide, thinking that I could bring people to the narrow when I wasn't even living on the narrow path. And like, I thought that if I lived wide, that people would just see me as, oh, well, she's just the Christian who can like manage this and then like brings everybody else back home. But it doesn't work like that. And I think when we got engaged, it was really painful because I think I had to mourn a lot of stuff, like choices that I'd made living with the person who wasn't my forever before meeting you, like just shedding that skin of those choices that were just so painful. And I know there's so much more discovery to happen around this topic for me, but I feel like
we should lighten the mood.
Yeah, we should probably lighten the mood, but I'm really excited that I'm here, like we're here now, and that we have this time and we have this beautiful window, like you've said before, that God has given us to step into the holiday season, be parents, and like work through some of these things and do it from like a pure, clean, like whole, like mindset.
So for those that are listening, if God's going to open a window, it's not because he thinks you need a breath of fresh air. He's saying, go through the window.
Yeah.
He's not saying stare out the window and wish life could be better. He's saying, no, take a step, go through the damn window.
Yeah, exactly.
And that window has a timeline attached to it and free will. If you choose not to take the window, there will be another window and another window. But if you keep missing all these windows, you'll find yourself 80, 90 years old wishing you had gone through one of them.
If you're waiting to make a change, or you're waiting for something, if you're waiting to do something when you get to that other place, you're never going to do that because you'll always be in the next other place.
There's no other place. There's no grass that is greener.
No.
That's an illusion.
I guess.
But questions that we want to ask each other that we've always wanted to know the answers to. What was your first job?
Like the first job I ever got a paycheck for?
Where you got money for doing something.
I was it was a quite envious position. It was really hard to get. I made smoothies at Jamba Juice. It was let's just say that was a real pill of humility for me. Because they wanted me to work the early morning shift because I was doing independent study when I moved to LA. And so they're like, oh, great. She can come in at 6 a.m. because she doesn't have to be at school at 8. And let's just say I was not good at getting up at 6 a.m. And I think I was not fired. I believe that I quit. But let me just tell you, anyone who's ever received a Strawberries Wild, like in your lifetime, or one of those yummy Parmesan cheese pretzels, like those things don't come out of, it's an effort for sure. Like it was a really humbling experience. What about you? What was your first job?
My first W-2 job was working as a camp counselor at what is now Camp Bob Waldorf.
Oh, I didn't know that was your first job.
Camp Max Strauss. Yeah, 18 right out of high school.
Oh, wow.
Went into that summer as a counselor. And so that was my first W-2 job. It was insanely challenging because I had some experience as counselor in training, junior counselor in training as a teenager, counselor in training a little bit later, and then to be a fully on-staff counselor, you know, like fully responsible for 12 7-year-old kids from inner cities at a time. Like the mission of what this camp does and like what the program does is amazing. However, these are kids from broken families, from gang families, from inner city. Like it is, they're hurting. And so when kids like that are hurting, they're really, really acting out. So it was a huge test of patience constantly.
It must have been, I know I kind of understand why you look on that, back on that time so fondly.
It was good and bad. I you know, well, I think I was a great counselor. It was, I don't think I was ready. Being 18 is too young for that job. So, anyway.
Yeah. I think I always wanted to know what your first impression of me was when you met me. Because I know we have like our cute anecdotal, like, oh, this is how we met. But like,
yeah, she's badass. You had, you know, heels on. You had this whole situation, and so you're, you know, running this place and just willing to work out a deal on the spot, and didn't seem afraid of like trying to get a deal.
Nice.
I don't know. That was my first impression.
Okay. I like that. I think I mean.
Very confident.
Oh, thanks. I told someone the other day who asked me like was it weird for you to go from being so independent to becoming so dependent on your husband? And I said, Well, I wasn't really that independent. I was just really hard on the outside and really broken on the inside. And anyway.
Well, okay, let's break that down, because I think now we're finally like operating as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were not operating as a team during the beginning of our
No.
relationship. We had two very separate trajectories, and now they've come together in a big way. So we got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I want to keep true to our outline here.
Yes.
So we have the turn of 2020 into a 2021 that promises new horizons, new president,
Maybe.
new way of
Yeah.
being, new way
Well, I
of
guess
life.
so, yeah.
Maybe. Okay, I know. There's
I don't know. I've accepted it. I'm just gonna say it. Like, I'm Joe B is my prez, and it's cool. Like, here we are. Like,
we'll get through this.
it's like, I feel like it's just really gonna be okay. That's what my spirit's
I'm
telling
just
me.
going to tell you right now, to whoever's listening to this very sentence, it's going to be okay. You're not going to die. He's not going to come into your house and take your piggy bank. Like, we're going to be okay.
I always loved that meme that was circulating that said, like, if it was like the picture of the popcorn ceiling, it said, if your ceiling looks like this, you don't have to worry about Joe Biden's tax plan. Sorry, I just think that's pretty funny.
Some
Anyway.
people might get that, but
Anyway.
what do we have to look forward to here?
Well, I think so. My prayer when the peak of COVID hit during quarantine, and I posted this on a few different platforms, but it was that for the first time in a really long time, that Americans in general, that when they're not feeling well and they're not feeling good, that they stop thinking that they're a martyr and coming to work sick, and that there's like a badge of honor that you get for coming to work sick. Like, you're not doing anybody favors coming to work sick. You're just going to get everybody sick. And now I understand that there's some people who don't get paid sick time and things like that. But I think now, because this thing has forced companies to change and forced people to view health as an important thing that we used to take for granted, then people will start to like live their life under this principle now that you could get someone sick. What's the, now more than ever, like, where was the worry about someone's grandparents 3 years ago? They could die from the flu.
So Lukey's getting a little bit upset, so we're going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly. This has been episode 3.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He's getting upset. We got to take care of him.
Okay. All right. We're going to sign off now. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.